What's going on, everybody, and welcome into the live stream mocking a 12 team half PPR draft tonight here on Sleeper. Make sure that you can hear me, that you can see me, that you can see the draft board, and that my damn table stops shaking because the camera messes up when I do that. I got to be a little bit more soft with the hands, I think. But we'll get rolling here momentarily once I get a little bit of quick confirmation that the stream isn't going to crash out on us, which sometimes takes a minute or two just to see what YouTube has to say. Make sure it's rolling. Hit that like button while you're here. I've got a like counter on the screen tonight, so when you like it, I'll try to update that every once in a while. You guys can see how long it takes me to see when you've liked it, and I can update. We've got 2 likes. We appreciate that. We're going to go half PPR tonight because I got it requested last night and said, there's not a lot of half PPR content out there that people are doing. It's all full PPR. And the reason for that is because full PPR is the best. But it is, there are a lot of people that play half PPR. And frankly, probably it's more prevalent than even maybe a full PPR is. A lot of people say, full PPR is not really reflective of a player's talent because you can catch a RB screen for 2 yards and it's worth more than, a play where a running back gains a first down. And people think that that's not fair. I understand that. I enjoy PPR because it's how my brain works. Like, I have just molded my fantasy strategy to full PPR. And so that's what I play because it's what I'm better at. But we'll do a half PPR tonight. At least for the first draft. We might do a second one if there's enough interest on the stream. So jump into the live chat, whether you're drafting, whether you're just here to watch, to ask questions, to comment, to talk sports. That's the name of the game here in the live stream. So go ahead and do that, no matter what your game is. I posted a link, the Brenden Schaeffer Fantasy Football channel. I posted from that with the Discord link. People said, well, what's the Discord? There are fantasy football and fantasy football mock draft channels within the Discord, and I tend to post the opportunities there before our stream goes live so that our first draft of the night ends up being filled before you ever see it on YouTube. So if you want to get in on the next one, enter that Discord, join the fantasy football channel, put on notifications for that channel because that's usually where I post the sleeper links first. If we get to a point where there's so many people that want to do it, we'll try to, make sure that the next day, people that didn't do it the first time, we can start to kind of toggle that. But we frankly have just been trying to get it rolling. So anyway, that's my preamble. We're going to start the draft, though. Let's get it kicked into high gear. We've got a full room. We've got mostly the green dots ready, but I think people are going to be ready when we go. Here we go. Underway with a 12-team half PPR draft tonight, so it's not full PPR. Does it change things at the top? It doesn't. The dad drafting Jamar Chase 1.1. I would probably be drafting a running back from the 2 regardless, but especially in half point, I'm more willing to do it. And Bijan Robinson is that running back for me. I'm not going to waste any time. Jahmyr Gibbs goes 3. I think the argument for Barkley is stronger in half-point PPR, even though he catches passes too. Gibbs, I think a good amount of his value comes from catching passes. I think I looked it up the other night. He had 52, and I think Barkley had 33 last year receptions. So that's a 19-point difference in full PPR. It's even less than that. Not even a 10-point difference over the course of a season. But 10 points is 10 points. I mean, that's still more than a half point per week. So it's not nothing, but I feel like I might even go probably Barkley over Gibbs in half PPR. But it's hard to really say that for sure because I'll never play half PPR. All my leagues are full. But I'm going to try to draft this straight up as though it is half PPR because we're challenging ourselves tonight on the stream. Derrick Henry goes 1.7. See, that's a good example of a player that should get pushed up because of the half PPR format. He doesn't catch passes, but he is a great running back. And so he's almost not dinged for his lack of pass catching. I won't even say prowess. It's just that the teams he's been on has never really used it out of him. I can remember when he was with the Titans, when I'd have Derrick Henry on my team, especially for fantasy, I would watch and I'd be like, just give him a screen. He'll go 60 yards. And like, it's a whole thing where he's got to get into space. He's got to catch it. He's got to not drop it. But once he gets ahead of steam, if they can find him the space, Derrick Henry's off to the races. Nobody wants to tackle him in the open field. So I feel like they should give him one screen per quarter at least every single game, and you just don't see it very much. But that's why you see Henry up to the 7 here. McCaffrey goes 9, Gentry 10. Yeah, the running backs definitely feel more promising and prevalent in a half PPR format where the reward for receptions isn't nearly as high. So we're seeing, frankly, quite a few running backs off the board. Bauer's still going in a pretty similar spot there to the 2 point, what is that, the 2.6, 2.5 to team 8. But otherwise, we get Taylor going earlier than we normally see. Jacobs certainly earlier than we normally see. It'll be interesting. The lineups are the same. It's 3 wide receivers, a flex, a tight end, 2 running backs, and a quarterback. But your reward for locking up elite wide receivers is not quite as strong. And so how does that change the way that people approach it? You know, a name like Drake London would probably already be gone normally. When receptions are worth less, do you then pivot to quarterback sooner? Is that something that we might see tonight? It isn't. Chase Brown goes at the 2.10. I would have taken him in half PPR at the 2.11, so it's a good pick. But I think when we do consider the relative value of quarterbacks, I think quarterback values go up, especially the elite ones. If you're just punting the position, it doesn't really make a difference. So Josh Allen, strong consideration for me here. The running backs would be James Cook, Breece Hall, A.J. Brown, but we're just taking Josh Allen. I know it auto-picked me, but that's who I wanted. I put him in the queue, and I was ready. And maybe one of these receivers makes it back to me. I don't think the dad starts with 3 wide receivers in a row. It's not PPR. It's half PPR, so we'll see what he does. But, yeah, give me Josh Allen, and let's try to build one of those elite QB teams. He goes James Cook, and I wouldn't have taken Cook and Allen, so I like that he picked him because it leaves the board very open to what I could potentially look to do. We'll see what the strategy is that I deploy, but it ain't going to be waiting on quarterback. Give me Josh Allen. I think I have the best quarterback in the league for fantasy. Omarion Hampton, we are used to seeing him at the back half of the third. He goes 3.1. So after the dad picked up the number 1 receiver in fantasy football, he went with 2 straight running backs, which is interesting because normally you might get a Chase Brown or a Kyron Williams at that slot. Didn't happen here. I'm on the clock and I'm deep into it. If you are going to give me A.J. Brown in the third, I think I will take him. And he's not a guy that always gets a ton of volume. His value should be big plays, scoring touchdowns. And I'm a little bit more open to wide receivers that, the more you decrease on the value of a reception, if it goes from 1 PPR to a half PPR, the more valuable those explosive big play receivers are. And to me, A.J. Brown has, for whatever reason, maybe just like a little bit of not a stink on him, but just a little bit of uncertainty. It's almost like there's A.J. Brown fatigue from drafters if we're letting him drop into the third round. I would prefer him. I think he's actually slotted appropriately. I think it's just a product of the running backs being pushed up. I have A.J. Brown over McConkey. I love Ladd McConkey, but I think McConkey's another guy that's like, could McConkey end up with more receptions this year than A.J. Brown? That's possible because I think McConkey is sharing with less prominent wide receivers, whereas you've got Devontae Smith, you've got Saquon Barkley. I think there are more weapons on the Eagles that, A.J. Brown is going to have to share with. 82 receptions last year on 112 targets. That is the mark for Ladd McConkey, and I think he could catch 100 balls this year. Last year, a little bit down in terms of receptions, but that's because he missed games as well. A.J. Brown was 106 receptions on 158 targets the previous season. So that's Who am I kidding? He can be a target hog as well. Last year, missed 4 games, 67 receptions on 97 targets. If I go 67 divided by 13, the per game average there, 5.15, multiply that by 17. So the pace was down for sure. And that's kind of why I had in my head he's not as much of a volume guy. But I think the touchdowns can absolutely be the differentiator there. So, I don't know. Let me know. Would you go A.J. Brown or would you go Ladd McConkey this year? I can't say I've taken a ton of A.J. Brown in mock drafts so far, but I don't think it's a bad price to pay if we're talking early third. Locked up my top quarterback, got my RB1, and then I'm able to get a really compelling receiver despite waiting until round 3 to draft him. I'm excited about that. Quarterback's going a little earlier in this one so far. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think relative to when you just consider like the total number of fantasy points, nothing has changed for Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels compared to when we were drafting these players last night. What has changed is their peers at running back and receiver and tight end aren't going to score as many fantasy points for the receptions that they earn. So the guys that you expect to be at the top of the position, and that's the tier to me, the guys we saw go so far, those are the quarterbacks that, and look, I could talk to you about Jalen Hurts, but I'm not obviously stacking him with A.J. Brown since I've taken Allen, not even if he falls to me at 411. So he'll be kind of in that tier as well. And he goes right here, right under the gun for dead ringer. But yeah, I think that's what happens. I think you push up quarterback a little bit in this tier, and then, it probably, after that, it all kind of levels out. The rest of the quarterback crop isn't necessarily too different relative to a full PPR league. Checking out some teams here. Trevor is building a nice little McCaffrey HN JSN. JSN, I would have taken McConkey over JSN, but he was close to being picked right over here for me. The question is, am I kind of in this mode where I had been doing a lot of hero RB? Is that as advisable in a half PPR league? Or should you be getting 2 running backs early? We saw Trevor, we saw Caleb, we saw Lil Colt, and I'll even say the dad, because he's got 2 now as well, prioritize 2 of their first 3 picks on a running back. Team 12, we had Ren go with 1 running back, but then double back in the 4th round to get Trevion Henderson, sandwiched around 2 receivers. So there's definitely more running backs going early, but I can still take that same hero RB approach into half PPR. And frankly, there are names later that I like the running back talent, but they're not necessarily pass catchers. And so I'm almost more emboldened to do the hero RB thing here, especially with Bijan, who would be my RB1 on the board, given where I took him. Do I start to consider like more guys like James Conner in that traditional RB dead zone that isn't really a thing anymore, but I kind of treat it like it is because I just kind of, no, I don't want old running backs. The power of youth compels me to not take those older running backs because I just feel like last year they didn't break down to injury, but they're bound to do it this year because that's most years what we get. Micah, you're on auto pick. Even though you're here, you're going to have to click the button to get off auto pick or it's going to skip your next pick. I'm up in the 4th round. You got George Kittle still on the block. Feels like that's a little bit later than we normally see him there. The dad took 2 running backs, so he's probably planning to smash some wide receivers this time. And I'm thinking, let's just get one of our guys. We'll go Xavier Worthy. He is one of our guys at receiver. And again, may not be a guy that gets a ton of volume, but touchdowns could certainly carry the day. Hey, Tedero McMillan went 1 pick before me. I was kind of looking to see if I could find him, but I was under duress and I hadn't noticed he just went. So he's in the back of the 4th, keeping an eye on his ADP. I like that the dad took Devontae Smith because, again, I wasn't probably double stacking Eagles, so I'm totally cool with that. Another name that I think about, again, we're going explosive. We took Xavier Worthy. He's going to be sharing with a PPR guy, Rashee Rice, whenever Rashee Rice gets back. And I think Rice has even less value in this format, not because of the suspension, but because of the half PPR of it all. I'll take Jamison Williams because I think he's another guy that he won't get maybe the volume every week, but he will have huge weeks. And again, if it's half PPR, I think he's an even better pick. If you're thinking about receivers, it's not as much the possession guys that you're looking for. It's the guys in half PPR that you think can take the top off because that's where the points come from. One of my leagues is half PPR, 6 points per throwing touchdown. Are you guys making fun of me for taking Worthy in every draft? It's just an easy, and I sniped J-Mo. Well, to be fair, what happened is Lil Colt sniped McMillan from me. I was going to take McMillan, and I kept looking, and I was like, shit, I can't find him. Like, where is he? And then I thought, well, I know that I like Worthy, so let's just click him. And then I noticed Lil Colt had McMillan. So, you got me, I got you. But McLaurin was the very top of ADP the whole time, and nobody took him until wrapping back around to you. So there you go. Yeah, Kittle is a good value there in the 5th round. No question. I picked twice and let him go by. I think that's a rare exception to me saying just punt on tight end if you don't get Bowers or McBride. Middle of the 5th for Kittle, he's a fun guy to have in fantasy too. Especially if he's on primetime, there will be those George Kittle games where they don't see anybody else on the field and the defense can't do anything about it. Like Brock Purdy will zero in on Kittle because he cannot be stopped. And when you have him on your fantasy team and it's a Sunday night or a Thursday night or Monday night, you're just like, this is George Kittle's world. I'm just along for the ride. I'm just living in it. Those games are so fun. And there will be games like that again this year. George Kittle is by no means, over the hill. What's George Kittle's age? 31. Yeah, he's got more to give. So, yeah, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about getting George Kittle for you there in the 5th round, middle of the 5th round too. Hit that like button if you'd be so kind as to support us here. I want to make sure to let people know. I apologize on this. We do have 7 likes now, so we had to get that updated. It's a little easier to do this when I'm just like on one side of the board and I don't have to worry about picking every 3 minutes, it feels like. Ethan says he's going with a 12-team PPR league. Should I go 1 flex or 6 bench or 2 flex and 5 bench? What I like to do is 3 receivers, 1 flex. But you could also go 2 receiver, 2 flex. I think the additional starter is valuable to those types of leagues, especially PPR. There's more points to go around. Yeah, so my 12-team league, I've got a few different ones that I'm in. Mostly I'm in 14 and 16-team leagues. Thank you for the additional likes. We're up to 9. I have a 12-teamer where it is 2 wide receiver, but there's 2 flex, which basically says, like, I'm probably in full PPR starting wide receivers at both those spots, but you can do whatever you want, right? That's how I would do it. If it's only a 12-team league, for me, that's kind of like a shallow league compared to what I play in. I like to play in leagues with more people. Bigger buy-in, bigger payout. That's kind of my thought. But that's what I would do. Yeah, I would go with the double flex, in my opinion. A compliment of the hat. Yeah, I'm wearing a Missouri hat. We still can't pick a quarterback, but that's okay. We'll pick one next week. They want me to refresh because I'm frozen. I don't know if I can refresh, but I will take a look. It doesn't say anything notable on my end as to why it would be frozen. So maybe you refresh and we'll meet in the middle. My real money draft, we've got some questions about that. Yeah, Trevor talking in here. I have a 16-team. I'll tell you guys about my different leagues. 16-team league. It's an auction draft. Oh, the draft screen is frozen? Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm up to draft. Hopefully that didn't mess anybody up. I apologize for that, guys. All right, let's see what we're cooking with here. Do we want another running back? Aaron Jones, Caleb Johnson. I could take a little Caleb Johnson. It's too early to do it. Let's take, Yeah, because I can double back with a receiver. The dad's got 3 receivers. I probably could have gone receiver there. But yeah, the screen was frozen. I missed some of the things that happened. Travis Hunter, 6th rounder. Odunze still in the 6th round despite the half-point PPR nature of it. I don't think the dad was going to take Caleb Johnson, but I want some upside. I've been a little disappointed with the upside of my RB2. And the dad, let me know if you were going to take Caleb Johnson over that Pollard pick. Let me know if I sniped you. But he was down ADP a little bit. But I think of that group, there's the allure of the unknown with him. Like Mixon, like Aaron Jones is probably the smartest RB pick from that range. And he goes Addison. And that's where I effed up because he was the receiver I wanted and would have taken. So I have to, you know what? Screw it. Nope, this is easy. You're going to take my guy. I will take the guy that everybody behind me wanted. It's the 7th round, guys. Fair game. I've said all along, if Igbuka's, if he's there in the 7th round, now what I've normally said is I need him to not be my flex. But, all right, so hey, there you go. The dad was going to take Caleb Johnson. Again, I don't think you can start him, and so my lineup is going to need some work. My lineup is going to need some real work because week 1 is going to be Igbuka either starting or I'm going to pick up like a Christian Kirk late that I can plug into my lineup. In fact, I need to get a better handle on week 1 matchups so that I kind of know what's going on. Hit that like button. We got 27 people on stream, just 9 likes. We can get to 10 likes for sure. And subscribe to the channel. Get into the live chat. Let us know your fantasy questions, your thoughts. Just comment. I'm going to read all of them. Week 1 NFL schedule. I'm typing into Google because I want to kind of see, is there a player that I should be thinking about because he's got a great round 1 matchup? Like Texans Rams, that's a week 1 game. I'm thinking Christian Kirk. Like if I've got Igbuka or I've got Jordan Addison and I don't really want to, like I can't start Addison. Do I want to start Igbuka? Maybe it's fine after the Jalen McMillan injury. Maybe now Igbuka's just going to be in their lineup and there's nothing we can do about it. He's going to be great. But if there are players like that, Caleb Johnson is a really good example of that too, where it's like, I might want him a lot by week 8, but I don't think you can start Caleb Johnson week 1. Now I'm going to stock my bench with more RB2 backup handcuff types, and I'll just have to pick one for the matchup in that opening week unless we get a really good drum beat on Caleb Johnson. But I thought in that range, and what's interesting is it took another round or so, half a round for Aaron Jones to go. It took another 6 or 7 picks for Tracy to go. A lot of receivers went after Pollard. But for me, from that range, Caleb Johnson is the upside play in December. Like, could Aaron Jones hold up until December? For sure. I've always enjoyed Aaron Jones. Like him better in full PPR. Come on. But I think at this point, give me a rookie and give me a shot at more upside. Because that's what I've got a whole bench for. Give me a bunch of shots in case I'm wrong with my RB2 or my flex. Maybe some of those other guys can step in. But I'd rather take a swing, especially in the draft. You got waivers. You've got all sorts of stuff. Life is too short to be drafting, I was going to say Jacoby Myers, but I didn't want to pick on anybody in particular. But life is too short for me to be drafting Jacoby Myers. Granted, in a full PPR, I think it's a little bit more, sensible. But am I drafting, and I'm not picking on Micah, but am I straining to draft the second option for Geno Smith on a Raiders passing game when they also just drafted Genty? And I'm assuming the first option is Bowers. I'm not really trying to do that. We go Barkley, Pacheco. You stacked him with Mahomes. It's a good team. I was just taking a shot on Golden instead. But this is my theory going into a draft. Let's hold some receipts. Somebody can hold me accountable because we could have a whole season and then go, hey, by the way, all that stuff you said in August was really dumb. And then I'll have to look back and go, yeah. And last year there was probably a lot of that because I wasn't telling people to draft James Conner and Joe Mixon. I wasn't drafting those guys myself. Yeah, Mike, it does kind of feel like I'm picking on you. Low Colt said he took Igbuka in the 5th round in his home league for that reason. I can't knock it. Get your guy. There's other guys in the 5th round that I feel a lot better about the volume for. But talent-wise, I mean, he's as talented as a lot of those guys, for sure. All right, 4 picks away. The running back room is gross. Or I should say, like, the running back ADP feels very gross. But we could use another one. We also could use a receiver to put into our flex. I'm still a wide receiver in the flex kind of guy when it comes to half PPR. Cooper Kupp is still there in the 8th round, but that doesn't really feel like a thing. We don't need a quarterback. Stop looking there. We've had a tight end run. That's been a little painful. We're going to wait on tight end, though. 15 seconds. I'm not taking Godwin. I'm not taking Kupp. Not taking Shakir. Gosh dang, man. All right, let's just take Jordan Mason. I'll take a receiver on the way back, but I just did not feel like the receivers were somebody that I should really prioritize over a Jordan Mason, who I'm not huge on, and I never really take him in PPR. But in half PPR, could he be the goal line back? He's a little younger than Aaron Jones. I'm not a huge Jordan Mason believer, but I think it matches with the Caleb Johnson pick. I can start Jordan Mason in week 1, projecting more volume than Caleb Johnson gets. What's crazy, though, is the dad taking Trey Benson. Because, frankly, I hadn't even scrolled down that far to think about him, but the dad is on the turn. The dad knows, the guy may not be getting back to me. So that's crazy to me. But it's not necessarily wrong. Man, what's the injury to Josh Downs? Does anybody know? Misses a preseason game, hamstring, soft tissue. Jaden Higgins or Josh Downs. Let's take the rookie. When in doubt, just take the rookie. So between Higgins and Igbuka, like my concern with Higgins is we think he's going to start, but what if he doesn't? And it's like, okay, hopefully Igbuka does. Downs was, if he's healthy, the pick was Downs for me. For the same logic as the Lil Colt pick on Michael Pittman. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. The passing game is going to be fine. They'll have to throw the ball. It's not going to be like the Jets offense with Justin Fields. Pittman's a good receiver. Downs is a good receiver. Like, those guys both might end up being just fine. I just can't get myself to pick like a Juwan Jennings or a Godwin. The Colt guys were more tempting to me, and I faded back on my comfort zone of like, rookie, upside, whatever. He's on the bench. Who cares? That's always going to be my general direction, is go for the younger player that we haven't seen his best yet. And it's not to say we've seen the best of Josh Downs, but we've seen Josh Downs, and we know he's pretty good. What if Higgins is like the guy opposite Nico Collins, and the Texans can't run the football, and they throw it 45 times a game? Well, that would be very good for Jaden Higgins. What if he's not? Well, that's why he's on my bench. That's why we drafted him in the 9th round instead of the 5th round. Which, by the way, is the risk of drafting Igbuka in the 5th round. Keon Coleman, I like Keon Coleman just about as much as I like Jaden Higgins, just about as much as I like some of these other guys in that range. Really, it's just those two, though. I'm looking at who else was drafted around there. Jaden Reed went pretty well before. Dead Ringer was thinking he was getting Benson at the 11th pick of the 9th round, which still hasn't happened, and Benson went almost a full round earlier. So that makes me even more glad I took Jordan Mason when I did, because now I'm not really panicky at running back at all. I locked in Bijan. He's the guy you want. He's number 1. And then I took a rookie upside guy who I still think is going to be backseat driving to Jaylen Warren for a while. But I'm thinking more second half when it comes to that Caleb Johnson pick, which, by the way, means you have to be willing to be patient. You're not drafting Caleb Johnson if you're not holding him on your bench for 8 weeks. Seriously. Like, you have to be willing with these rookies. I would say very similar to Jaden Blue, although you could have an instance where the Cowboys, go to Javonte or Miles Sanders, and it's like a timeshare between those two. Caleb Johnson is at least going to play some, I would think. Unless it's like, I know who they pick up. Like, they have Kenny Gainwell now. I don't think Kenny Gainwell is going to be anything more than what he was with the Eagles. So I feel like there's still, you can dream on the hope of the upside there with Caleb Johnson, but you have to be willing to wait with it. I think the same is true if you're drafting Cam Scattaboo. I didn't mean to call him a scam. Sorry, Caleb. Cody Schrader with good PR. Is that what you said? Jaden Blue going is kind of a similar conversation. Looking for the other running backs to which that would apply. I think that's about it so far. But, like, Caleb Johnson's probably the first one. Like, if I took him in the back end of the 6th round and you're talking about 8 weeks before you can drop him, boy, you might have drafted the wrong player, because that's a lot of draft capital for a guy. So, like, that's a reach for sure. But, again, I think it's a reach on upside, trusting myself as a fantasy manager to come up with an answer if it's not him. And valuing the potential of what Caleb Johnson could become by week 10 more than what I know Pollard is going to be in weeks 1 through 9 and then 10 through 17. It's going to be what it's going to be with him. Quinshon Judkins was the other one. He's taken 6.1. A little rich for my blood, but it's the same concept. And Lil Colt takes Braylon Allen from me. That would have been my pick. I was thinking about Braylon Allen with the Higgins pick, but I was like, no, let's see where Braylon Allen goes, because that'll be interesting. I'm never going to play in a half PPR, but Braylon Allen is more valuable in a half PPR than he would be in a full, for sure. Man, oh man. Well, I'm staring down some running backs here. Let's take Garendo. Just another one of those guys in that bench running back category. The dad grabs Pitts. I could have taken him, but I was a little bit locked into. I got sniped. I'll be honest. I got sniped on the Braylon Allen thing. So Lil Colt and I have been doing it to each other all draft. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it to him this time. Let's see where we are. Receiver, we got 5. I don't really need 6 in half PPR. 5 might be enough. Godwin's still sitting there, though. But he doesn't really match with my bench of receivers that I have. Oh, God. Give me Kraft. Let me have him. Did it work? Did it work? Oh, I think it did. I think it gave me Kraft. Whoa. That was close. It was like I was clicking through it to try to get him. Yeah, Krosky Merritt, people still thinking that's going to be a thing. He's taken there in the 11th. I needed a tight end in Kraft after the Pitts pick. I was like, wait a minute, there's a guy out there that I like at tight end. And I think he's more reliable than Colston Loveland. Loveland, is exciting, but because I went a little bit heavy into the rookie upside with Higgins, Igbuka, Caleb Johnson, let me get a tight end that I know is going to be more involved. Yeah, Trevor getting Mark Andrews. I didn't mean to put a clown on you there. It was on a thumbs up, and then it moved to a clown. That's a good value for. That's certainly a good value for Mark Andrews. I don't know how much the likely thing affects me or doesn't when it comes to that. But likely, obviously, with the injury. But he could very well be back. What did they say? Like, miss a few weeks, maybe week 1. Probably won't play week 1, but, like, I would still draft likely, honestly. Especially as we get deeper into this draft. And I don't know if I've seen, has he gone? Has anybody taken him? Not yet. He'd be somebody that I would pick a last round pick on just to stash in an IR spot. Godwin finally did go. It feels like every time I do a half PPR, I'm underwhelmed by my team at the end, no matter what. Because I'm normally like, oh man, look at my receivers. They're so good. And now I'm like, yeah, they're good, but I don't even know if that matters as much as it normally does. So to retrain your brain can be a little complicating. What did he say? I see good steak on Jacory. Good steal. I kept reading that going, what is he talking about as steak? And by the way, Big Lou, you're on auto pick. I don't know if you meant to be. But you got to once you miss one, you have to click back to get rid of the auto pick. Yeah, Ja'Cory, I mean, honestly, I haven't built up a queue. I'm on stream, so I'm not like showing. I would probably keep Ja'Cory in like a little short list of players to know that they're down in ADP. I think by the time any draft I do, we're gonna know more about this Brian Robinson thing, and so it won't be like people will be sleeping on Krosky Merritt. It'll just be what it is. But I don't know. I'm happy with my one dynasty share, and I'm not really chasing him. But that certainly, for a little Colts team, could end up being. I mean, you got Gibbs, Chase Brown, Braylon Allen, and Krosky Merritt. Those are some really, really good running backs. McMillan, McLaurin, Judy Pearsall, Pittman. I don't like the receivers as much, but I like the first couple, and I don't need to like him as much because it's not quite as valuable. That is a team that, if Braylon Allen or Krosky Merritt performs, he can start a running back in the flex. And you got Lamar Jackson. So, yeah, Lil Colt did a really nice job with this draft. Tyler Warren's always a fun tight end pick. I like Tucker Kraft this year, though. I don't know what it is, but I think that's a very solid late pick at tight end. I think he's going to have a good year. I love my receivers. A.J. Brown, Xavier Worthy, Jamison Williams, Igbuka. Yeah, I'll go to war with those guys. Running backs, I think I don't feel as good about my running backs post Bijan just because I'm drafting in a different style, knowing that it's not full PPR. I'll take one more running back for sure before I get out of here. Maybe I stack up two because I've got the number one quarterback. I feel good about that. I like my tight end enough to not need a second one. I'll just roll Tucker Kraft and we'll see what happens. Lineup-wise, by week 6, Igbuka's going to be, taking the league by storm. Love Brown-worthy JMO. I just need an RB2, and I drafted a rookie one. Could I have gone in another direction? Frankly, I'm drafting more Benson than Jordan Mason, but I think Jordan Mason is more likely to eat into legitimately Aaron Jones than Benson is to Connor, but both are going to happen to an extent. I just didn't think Benson was at risk of being taken, and clearly other people didn't either. But people are starting to get, hip to what he could bring to the table, so that's all good. Yeah, I mean, Krosky Merritt, if I'd been thinking about it, might have been a nice pick, but I also wanted Kraft, so I don't have a problem with that. Krosky Merritt over Garendo, yeah, I probably would say that I would rank it that way. Only because of Garendo's injury, though. I like Garendo as a handcuff, and he will get snaps if he's healthy, because they're not going to ask CMC to be the workhorse because they know how valuable he is to keep healthy. Okay, I'm going to take at least one more running back. Do I take Algier? Do I just take the backup to my guy and say that, man, if Bijan goes down, I'm hurting? I got news for you. If Bijan goes down, I'm hurting even if I do have Tyler Algier. So let's take upside. Let me take a pick that fades the Judkins pick because I'm not convinced that Samson doesn't get as many carries this year as Judkins. I don't know that he will for sure, but one of them's getting drafted in the back of the 11th, and one of them was the first pick of the 6th round. So I like Samson at Tennessee. I think the scheme that the Vols run makes a running back sometimes look better than he is. Jalen Wright, an example of that from the Dolphins the year prior. But I'll take my shot on Samson. I was impressed by him what I've seen of him when he was in college. Probably just going to round it out with another running back. Is there a receiver that I really really want? Could go like the Isaac Tesla route. Other guys that I would think about are probably long gone. I like Dowdle. Let's go Will Shipley. I want to say that while I'm not fading Saquon Barkley, I actually think Will Shipley is another one of those guys. Again, last year was the year of the running back where everybody got a workload, nobody got hurt in a significant way. I feel like teams are going to be a little bit more careful with some of their prize workhorses a year following all the work that those guys got. So I like grabbing a bunch of RB2s that could end up with their own role carved out, plus great contingency value in case of an injury. So I went way heavier into running back here than I normally do. Yeah, Big Lou, I've been telling you you're on auto. You got to watch the stream, big dog. Yeah, he was on auto, but that happens, I suppose. We'll grade the teams here. couple guys ended up on auto, but that's okay. We will give out draft grades, so stick around if you are. And by the way, I was way behind. I was delinquent in. We don't have 27 likes. How many likes do we have? I was 14 likes. I was definitely behind on the like counter today, guys. It's an idea. It's a work in progress. If you post the likes on the screen, you probably ought to make sure you update them when people do like it. But let's go ahead and talk about the draft that we had here and whose teams I like the best. Grading it from a half PPR perspective. Let's get myself off the screen so we can see everybody's teams. Half PPR, starting with team one. Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Smith and Addison, Shakir, Christian Kirk, and Hollywood Brown. Lots of receivers there. But I do need to probably read the running backs first in half PPR, don't you think? James Cook, Marion Hampton, Pollard, Benson. I like the late picks at quarterback and tight end. I think it's a good team. It's like a B at least. I don't know that you needed as many receivers as you drafted. Like, I think you could have gotten away with just Kirk and no Hollywood and maybe even another running back instead of Shakir there. But your running backs are good. Benson, Pollard, Marion Hampton, James Cook. Yeah, it's a high B, B+ probably. It's a solid team. I still think drafting from the 1-1 is a benefit, even in half PPR. All right. Bijan, Caleb Johnson, Jordan Mason, Garendo, Sampson, Shipley. We've got a lot of darts that we're throwing at an RB2. If one of our 5 running backs can be a legit RB2, pair it with Bijan, have the best quarterback in football. Tucker Kraft is a very passable tight end one. A.J. Brown, Worthy, J-Mo, Egbuka could end up being a really lethal receiving core. I actually like the team quite a bit. I think there's some other. If I had Braylon Allen instead of, or Krosky Merritt instead of, I would be more in my comfort zone. But I think it's still like, I would say a dead heat between me and the dad. I'm not going to say it's a B+ for sure, but it's like in that, it's like an 87 out of 100. I feel very good about my draft because I know who's anchoring my team. I know I've got Allen. I know I've got Bijan, and I like my receivers a lot. And I'll live with a rookie receiver in my flex to begin with. And I'm just hoping Jordan Mason falls into the end zone or Caleb Johnson takes the RB1 job in Pittsburgh. But I would be able to do some damage with that team. Love this start in a half PPR to go Gibbs, Chase Brown. McLaurin, McMillan, Judy, Pearsall, Pittman, Lambert Smith is fun at the end. Allen, Krosky Merritt, taking the kid from Rutgers on the Bears, which is interesting because Swift may not keep the job. That's a really good draft. Yep. I think that's just maybe an A. I like that team the best of the 3, and I like the first 2 pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you go quarterback. You had a little bit of everything, Lil Colt. That was a good draft. I just love Gibbs, Chase Brown in half PPR. I think that's a really good start because you're not when you wait on receiver, like receivers weren't as strong here, but it's still a good group. Maybe A-. Like receivers are a little bit weak, but I think all of them are very capable of scoring for you. And Pittman as a 5 is good too, because then you can plug him in if Pearsall doesn't pan out or whatever. And you don't lose as much by waiting on receiver because it's half PPR. A-. Very good draft, though. Saquon Pacheco, I like the running backs. I don't like Brian Robinson, but I don't like Najee Harris. Woody Marks and Ollie Gordon could be right, but they're like dart throws. London McConkey, I like quite a bit. Metcalf, I just can't get on board with the Aaron Rodgers thing. I don't know what to make of that. Mahomes and Njoku, it's it might be my least favorite of the 4 so far, but I don't think that makes it a bad draft. It's at least in the B range, B- to B from Micah. Again, like Godwin late, you throw him on IR and pick up somebody else. That actually is decent strategy, so I can't knock that. You lose me with the Najee Harris. I just don't think Najee Harris is going to have relevance. He's got one eye. And if I'm wrong, then, you can tell me, hey, I made a good pick and you were wrong. Kyron Williams, Kamara. Okay. Dobbins, Chubb. Ugh. I just don't like the old running backs. But again, they're both supposed to be like starters. So what do I know? It could work out. Lamb, Higgins, Olave, Golden, Keenan Allen. You got the Kittle pick that I enjoyed. Dak feels like a little bit of a reach, but you're stacking him with Lamb, so that makes sense. It's about on the par with Micah there. Not a bad draft. Give me like a B- on that. For me, it's the running backs. It's 2 of the first 4 picks are running backs, and I don't know about Kamara's value quite as much when it's not full PPR. I like Kyron. Like Lamb, Kyron, Higgins, I think is a perfectly suitable start. I think there's risk though down the roster, and not the bench to be able to make up for some of the risk that I see. So that would be B- for me. Jefferson, Evans, Adunze, Kupp, some bench receivers. Bucky, Harvey. Harvey kind of feels like the Caleb Johnson thing, but a little bit more draft capital, but more likelihood to contribute. You stacked Evans with Mayfield. I'm in a wait and see mode on this. That's another kind of B- for me. And like we've had 6 drafts. I don't think any of these teams are bad, but I'm looking at, well, you can plug in Tracy for Harvey if you need to early. I don't mind that. I think that Eckler serves that same purpose. I think it's wasted picks to go Palmer, Leggett at the end. Maybe not Leggett, but Palmer, I don't really know. He's just not the late round guy I'm taking. So B- there. No bad drafts yet. Jaden Daniels, Laporta, that's kind of fun. Henry Walker Connor, not my type, but I can see the vision. Ramondre, last round pick, I cannot see the vision. And same thing it's like he's got more value, Ramondre does, than being picked in the last round. But you already kind of stocked up on those old running backs. But maybe that's the theory. It's like, well, give me 5 of them. 2 will get hurt, but the other 3 will play. Okay, that's fair. Went older at wide receiver, though, with Diggs, Debo as well. Ayuk's on this team. Thielen's on this team. I'm only knocking you for age, but that's more of a C+ to B- for me. But that's the exact type of draft that would have smashed last year, and I wouldn't have liked it. So don't worry. I think you could be in fine shape. Breece Hall, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Etienne, Bigsby, Algier. There's a lot of running backs on this team that, like, it's going to be frustrating because they'll all be on your bench. They'll have no trade value, but you'll also not want to drop them because there is some value to each of those guys. So I think you stocked up well. You're just going to be a little light at receiver. Amon-Ra and DJ Moore is really good. Luther as your 3, Jennings as your flex. But you can flex a running back, and you will. So Bowers, Burrow, that's kind of fun. B- to B on that one. Which, again, that puts you in kind of close to maybe the middle, maybe bottom half of the middle of the draft so far. McCaffrey, Achane, I like a lot. JSN, Flowers, Pickens, Hunter, I like a lot. Me and Trevor think a lot alike, so that's not surprising. Charbonnet, I thought was a really good pick for RB3. Davis, don't care about Rashad White, but a lot of the upside running backs have probably been picked over by that point anyway. Like, I would have gone Algier over Rashad White, but I'm sure he's got a reason. I mean, I think is Bucky a little banged up, or is it Rashad that's banged up? I don't know about Rashad White. You have to text me and explain that one. Yeah, he's got a groin injury too. Sean Tucker even over Rashad White. That's the one pick I didn't like. But otherwise, pretty much a smash on this draft. Don't care about your bench wide receivers, but yeah, I mean that's a B+ to an A- potentially. That's probably second place behind Lil Colt right now. And it's the 2 teams that took elite running backs at the beginning. I would say that Lil Colt's running backs are just more likely to get through the season healthy, and that's the only difference. They both have an RB3 that I like. Yeah, so Lil Colt leads, Trevor in second, me and the dad tied for third, something like that. Caleb goes Genty Taylor, but I'm not going to like his receivers quite as much, I bet. Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, he has to catch a pass from Justin Fields. Rice, I love, but suspended, not as valuable when it comes to half PPR than full. Ridley, kind of the same thing. He's not suspended. I guess technically neither is Rice. Mixon, Scattaboo, Spears. It's a B. It's just like a B for me. But Caleb went home. He does not worry about it. He told me I was too nice to his grade the last time. All right, B- then, Caleb. There you go. All right, we had one guy go double wide receiver. Dead Ringer went double wide receiver to start. He's the only one that did it. Got him Neighbors and Puka Nacua, which, again, Puka's normally like 1.10 or sooner, 1.8, so that's very good value from the 11 and gets him in the second round. Sutton as your 3. Chuba Hubbard, Swift, Jalen Warren. You're probably starting those 3. One of them's your flex because Trey Harris, Bateman, Alec Amaner, I'm not necessarily buying into all that. Not really into Jerome Ford. Did get Jalen Hurts. I think you'll be lacking a little bit. It's tough to go. It feels like you went 0 RB, but you didn't. You spent a third rounder on Chuba Hubbard. So that's not one of my favorite drafts. That's more toward the C+ category for me. But I do really like Neighbors and Puka. I just wish you would have been able to find a way, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a hater on Chuba Hubbard, but I think there would have been better ways to, like, the first 5 picks are really solid enough, but you lose me a little bit by allocating so much resource to tight end when you needed probably more at running back. But then you did get Warren and Blue. It could work out very well. Maybe I'm too harsh. C+ to B-, probably B-. Again, like I said, I think everybody that's been drafting with us there's not anybody that's just like a dud. You know, people know what they're doing in these drafts. All right, let me click it and find team 12 here and wrap up our conversation on this one. Appreciate you guys who have joined us, who have stayed with the stream. I'll read some YouTube comments after I finish upgrading team 12 here. Jacobs, Trevion Henderson, Judkins, Tootin, Jalen Wright. Go with the Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, stacked with Waddle, Kelsey. Receivers are Collins, Harrison, Waddle. That's a pretty good top 3. Reed, you took later, but that's a pretty good flex. I like Mims and Shaheed off the bench. They feel like the same guy. Mims and Shaheed, offenses that aren't quite considered to be elite, players that are probably undervalued. They can take a deep ball. I don't mind that team. If Trevion Henderson hits, I could very well see that being a productive team. That's probably like a B for me. You know, and it's like when I graded against my team, I'd prefer my top running back. I've got a quarterback that he doesn't. I feel like my receiving core can go up against his. So, yeah, that's more a B. I would say I'm in that, like, 5th place range, 4th or 5th. I'm a playoff team. Rent Grenades, that's like the cut line of playoffs or not playoffs, in my opinion there. All right, let's check out some of the comments here as it pertains to... I keep clicking the wrong thing on my screen, which is making me delay. Some of the comments on YouTube. Roll through. Terry slide from the mid-3rd to now the 5th round is so saddening. Yeah, I think it's mostly like the contract stuff, right? That's all it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had said earlier I was going to tell you guys about my leagues. 16-team auction. I've got a 14-team auction super flex, which means 28 quarterbacks can be in the lineup, which means 32 to 35 will be drafted. And I have a 14-team snake draft. It's really my only snake draft. No, I've got 2. 14-team snake draft. It's kind of my big league. That's going to be on Labor Day. And I have a 12-team on the 29th that is a snake draft. That's the one I was telling everybody about that had 2 flex. All of them are full PPR. One of them is... And then I've got an auction that I need to get rolling as well. That's a 12-teamer. But it's shorter lineups, so it's a little bit thinner, which is fun because it's an auction, so you can kind of play that stars and scrubs strategy without really having to play too many scrubs. Because you can just say, I'm going to draft a starting lineup if I want to. But then some people that draft a balanced team, they have a full bench, they can trade all year long. And that ends up being the benefit for those guys. Yeah, we do love the auction league, 16 teams. 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds, said Dipsetic. Yeah, I agree with that. My teams going that route are more passable. I feel better about them for sure. I'm sorry it took so long to talk about those drafts. Most undervalued pick on the board is a fun question. Oh, most undervalued pick on the board. Undervalued. Like, usually it's going to be a rookie that emerges, but I can't say I know for sure what the rookie is going to do. It might be Igbuka, honestly. Igbuka going in the 7th could be the answer to that question. Because if, with McMillan out, for the season for the Bucs. Godwin's not going to be ready. Is it not just Mike Evans and Igbuka starting at wide receiver? If that's the case, Baker Mayfield can get the ball to talented receivers, and Igbuka is a talented receiver. So maybe it's just that simple. Maybe it is just that simple that it's Igbuka. But I also don't feel comfortable drafting him in the 5th round. So Matt says that Igbuka went 6.1. Cobb thought he was going to be getting a B. I think, did I give you a B or a B minus? I might have ripped you on this one. Someone said I gave a B to everyone. It's like between C plus and A minus is usually where most of the grades go. The more I talked about it, HD's draft kept going up. Started C, ended up B. That's the thing, though. It's like you can't definitively say somebody's draft is terrible because they might just be liking different players than you. I might be wrong about the players. I have to. That's why it's a very flat curve when it comes to draft grades, because I'll say, hey, I'm going to knock you up because I don't like the players you drafted, but I can see that you went heavily on a specific type of running back that I avoid like the plague. So Cobb says he wished he had more B's in school, and he said you would have if you had Mr. Schaeffer as your teacher. That's probably true. That is probably true. Oh, Kate Otten taking over? Yeah, maybe Kate Otten ends up being more relevant for the Bucs. Did he get drafted in this? Did somebody pick him up? Because I like him in general. I don't think anybody took him. No, he's a fun last-round tight end. I didn't really think about that with the injury to McMillan and the fact that Godwin's probably shelved for a little bit. Cody said it. Nobody in these rooms has had a bad draft. I agree with that. It's just, it's a lot of, pretty solidly competitive drafters. Otten and Bucky will get shares of the receiving work. Yeah, Otten, like Bucky's going to get what he's going to get. Otten is probably, because he's a good player and they've trusted and liked him. But it seems like for whatever reason with Kate Otten, we don't really, I don't know, we just don't really think about him. The 100K delivery driver wants to do another one. I'm not going to say for sure that we're going to do another one, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a link, and if it fills quick, we'll do it. Because I do want to kind of knock it out. Let me make sure I change the settings, too. I'm posting it in the YouTube, by the way, not Discord. This will just be right there in the YouTube chat, so be ready. If you're not on YouTube, you better get there because I'm posting it. I was going to say, screw it, going to bed, but we got 33 people still watching. Well, now it's 26. We did better last night, but that's life, baby. That's life in the NBA. All right, I'm going to post the link. Let's see if it fills, and if it does, we're going to run the draft real fast. And then I'm going to read about Matt's team. He posted a lot of players, names of players. Murray Fields. Actually, you know what I better do first? I should probably join the draft. I should join, and I'll take the middle. Just give me right smack dab in the middle, number 6. The dad, hold on now. The dad, you got to stop going on either turn. The dad, you got to take a different spot. Even if it's 6. Move to somewhere else, Dad. I don't want you at the turn again. I'm tired of looking at you at the turn. Switch somewhere else. I wonder if I could just place him. I wonder if I can do that. Draft settings. Okay, he moved. Thank you. Yeah, you just take a different spot. Don't take the same spot you always take. That sort of vibe. Always be switching it. I know some people have their legit home league. They're like, but I'm in this spot. I need it. I want to see some different stuff. I know the dad kind of bounces between the two turns. Let's make him at least go somewhere else. You do too good from the turn. We gotta get you off your game. All right, 2 more spots available in the draft. It filled pretty quick. We'll run it. I don't know how enthusiastic I'll be if this is if it's a draft where I start to tilt, but I'm gonna do my level best. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Make it worth my while, at least in that regard. Let me see here. How many we got? We got Team 3, Team 11. So if you're watching on stream, which I think we still do have enough to do, I need B-roll for tomorrow's video. Yeah, there's plenty of B-roll. 2 spots left. The bed is calling HD. Totally get you. You know, it's not what it was last night. If it was last night, I was like, damn, there's 70 people watching. I got to build this thing back up. Let's do it. And so we did. Tonight, I'm doing it for the love of the game, though. Love of the game and maybe the love of getting discovered a little bit more on YouTube. We'll see. Let's fill this draft up and we can run it. 2 spots left last I checked. Rather post it in YouTube, right? Reward people for tuning in. We got to add to the follower league here, to the follower count. We gained 2 more subs. Appreciate y'all for that. We got to, let's see, we got it all. All right, we're filled. Let's rock. This is full PPR, everybody. We have changed. Let me make triple sure I changed it. Did I? I did. All right, let's do it. Let me make sure the video looks good because I will clip it here if I end up posting this video. If it's a good draft, make it a good one. Let's do some content. Here we go. 12-team, full PPR mock draft. I'm going from right smack dab in the middle of the board with the 6th pick. And let's try to do something crazy. Let's have a great draft. Chase, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs starting us off. That Gibbs-Barkley conversation ends up being interesting for people. And in full PPR, sometimes the answer is Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. You just never do know. To me, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb this time. Because that's who dropped. I think I like CeeDee Lamb possibly as the number 3 player in PPR. So I'll take him at 6 for sure. And I think that's where the tier break is. Nothing against the Lions and Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I just think there's a little bit more upside for the 3 receivers ahead of him to command. And like Amon-Ra is going to get a ton of targets, but you do have JMO, you do have Gibbs, you do have Laporta. You've got Isaac Tesla. I mean, you got a lot of bodies on that offense. I like Amon-Ra quite a bit. Neighbors is the interesting one because if the quarterback stuff is good enough for him, he vaults into that top 4. And I prefer him over Collins. I prefer him over Puka usually, but if Stafford's healthy, that's probably wrong. Amon-Ra's barely going to be drafted in the first round at this rate. He goes 11. That's a good pick. I want to see Team 11 nail the second round pick, though, so that I can rave about him getting good value on Amon-Ra and then hitting the next one. All right, who you got? Let's see it. Probably a running back. Maybe Bowers. Maybe he goes back-to-back wideouts. A reach on Josh Allen. Anything is possible when you're on the clock at 2.2. Hit that like button. I know we don't have quite as many viewers at this point, but we can get to 20 likes, I believe. I believe it in my heart. It is back-to-back wide receivers, A.J. Brown. Well, I feel even better about my 3.2. What was I? The second pick of the third round last time took A.J. Brown. It was half-point PPR, so it's a little different. McCaffrey, Derrick Henry is a whole vibe from the dad. I don't know if I would have the stones to do it. Not in full PPR, I wouldn't. Half PPR? Yeah, I would, because Henry should be, he'd be going way higher. That's interesting, though. I mean, hey, double RB, double hero RB, that's certainly probably a very good way to go here in 2025. But it's not the way I get to go because I went CeeDee Lamb. I could have gone McCaffrey. I just think the value of it is depleted. You've got to be closer to the turn where you can get McCaffrey and double back with Achane or Henry or Genty, or you have to be in that Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley range in the top 5 or 6. Like, I could be 6, but I just didn't get a chance at any of those guys this time. And then coming back, you could take Josh Jacobs. You could take, whoever you take. Middle of the second round, though, Josh Jacobs would be a really good pick. I'll take Bowers, though. I might do it this time and go full zero RB because it would be good for the video if I did. Not to say that I would, try to do less than my best strategy. But if zero RB comes naturally, I can post one that says, hey, this is a real zero RB video. See what you think about the strategy. We'll see if that works out. Barkley, Chase Brown. Chase Brown keeps getting pushed up. My most rostered player on Best Ball and Underdog is actually not Chase Brown anymore. I have the most money invested in Chase Brown. I think I have a higher percentage of Braylon Allen now, but it was on smaller contests to get me there. But I've got over 30% Chase Brown. He is by far my most rostered player. My highest exposure in terms of dollars. But I had taken a lot of Braylon Allen. I honestly haven't done any best ball the last few days because I've been doing this with you guys. Probably losing myself some big tournament winnings from that. Micah, 3 running backs is more than you need, but I will understand that you are going to own the monopoly on the position. Bijan, Kyron, and then Cook in your flex. I mean, if you find 3 sexy little receivers to pair up with those 3 running backs, you might have a stew brewing, but I just can't go over super duper robust at RB. Not when it's so easy to replicate on waivers. Not easy, but it's certainly doable. All right, Breece Hall is there. Omarion Hampton. I'm not going running back. Lamar Jackson. Do we do it? Do we really go 0 RB all the way through? Middle of the third is not a bad value for Lamar Jackson. Yeah, we'll take him. We'll take Lamar. So what I was thinking about debating doing is saying, Brenden, you like the 4 quarterbacks. You like Daniels the best at his normal ADP at the 3-4 turn, but you also would take Jalen Hurts if he came back to you in the 4th. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought, if he doesn't come back to me, it's going to ruin the whole thing. And so let's just lock in a guy that I know is great, and it's Lamar Jackson. So I have done the uncomfortable thing of, clearly we're going 0 RB. It's full PPR, and I've got 1 receiver after 3 rounds. No running backs, but I have locked up my onesie positions. Tight end, got the best one. Quarterback, I got the best one or the second best or the third best one. Jaden Daniels went about where he normally does. I would have been sweating out, hoping that Hurts could get back to me. And then when I looked at the top of the list of receivers and saw Tyreek Hill, I was like, it's not the time to be doing this. If Marvin Harrison had fallen, if JSN had fallen, then you maybe do it. Higgins was not. I wasn't going to take him. And I would say that, of course, there could still be a wide receiver run here in the 4th round as Metcalf goes. For me, I was not going to miss out on any receivers that go between my Jackson pick in the 3rd and whatever I take at 4.7. Like the 5 of you could pick receivers, and I would still have a receiver that I like just well enough. So was it worth it to try to push the QB pick from Lamar to Hurts? And Hurts doesn't make it, but even if he did, it's not worth it because I didn't gain that much of an upgrade at receiver. Like, I'm not into Tyreek Hill. I'm not into Metcalf. I'm agnostic on Higgins. And those are the wide receivers that have gone. So I'm not going to miss out on any. Like, frankly, I'd rather be picking a little bit later in the 4th round to feel like I'm not reaching on ADP. Everybody goes, well, you're just going to take Xavier Worthy. What's it matter? Yeah, because when I look at the list, I don't love Evans just because of age. I don't love Garrett Wilson just because of the volume in the passing offense, not trusting Justin Fields. McLaurin, if I was stacking with Daniels, is a different story, but I think he had a lot of fantasy points last year from explosive plays, and if he doesn't replicate it, you may not be able to have that same result. Devontae Adams is the one guy that I do take on occasion, and I'm scared to, but I do it with enough frequency. Rashee Rice, I can't. The suspension stuff is really scary because you don't know when it's coming or how long it's going to be. DJ Moore is not really the Bears receiver that I want, and so, yeah, more often than not, it's Xavier Worthy, but just to shut you guys up, I'll take Tetaroa McMillan this time because you weren't going to let him back to me. He's consistently gone at the end of the 4th round, and so I'll say, all right, fine. I wasn't getting him in the 5th, even though ADP would suggest, if he's at 59th on their list of rankings, that means he's supposed to go toward the back of the 5th round, and that just doesn't happen. So let's take the rookie wide receiver, Tetaroa McMillan. He's going to be my wide receiver 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. I've got an elite tight end and an elite quarterback, and this is the way you do 0 RB if you're going to do it. I lose Worthy, but that's just fine. I've drafted him in every other mock. And when what's funny is I've gotten into a rhythm of feeling very safe and comfortable with the mocks and Xavier Worthy. I don't know if I'll draft him in the real drafts when push comes to shove. I just don't really know yet. Because he's in that range of guys that really, they're all 5th round receivers. And I'm going to get one of them here because there's 3 picks left and I've got 5 guys I like. J-Mo's one of them, but that's okay because I took him in the last one. And Trevor likes J-Mo too. We're always in lockstep with that. Devontae Smith goes. Here is when I am comfortable taking Rashee Rice. McMillan wouldn't have made it back to me, but the risk with Rice as my 3 feels a lot more suitable. But, whoa, hold on. Zay Flowers would be a stack. So, what do? Do I force the stack? It's probably smarter to take Zay Flowers. But I clicked Rashee Rice's name. I think with stacks, and let me know what you guys think about this when it comes to, should I have gone Flowers? Knowing I've got Jackson, would you have gone Flowers or would you have gone Rice? Trevor says, I sniped Tetaroa from him is what I assume being shot feels like. Yeah, I didn't realize that Trevor was to my left there because he would have taken him for sure. Okay, so let's break this down. Zay Flowers, the stack with Lamar. I'm taking Lamar because Lamar's going to run the ball a bunch and score touchdowns on the ground. He'll throw a bunch of touchdowns. He's just going to be great. I'm not doing it specifically because I'm like, I have to have Lamar's number 1 pass catcher. It would have been really easy, and the more I end up looking at my team, the more I might say, hey, in a real thing, go ahead and lean into that stack because it literally fell into my lap. It wasn't like I was trying to produce it. It was just there. Rice is interesting, though, because I think if he weren't going to be suspended, he's a 3rd round pick. He's going where JSN is going if Rice weren't suspended. And guess what? I'm going to make the fantasy playoffs. That's my attitude every time I'm in a draft. So what are we sitting here talking about weeks 1 through 14 as though I'm not going to at least get enough wins to make the playoffs, and then Rice should be in my lineup. Rice, I would rather have week 15, 16, 17 than Flowers, maybe even with the stack. But what's going to be interesting is, and Trev says, hey, I would have gone Flowers, and it's not wrong. It very well might have been the right pick. But I think Rice is a legitimate wide receiver 1. I mean, he's Amon-Ra St. Brown with Mahomes as his quarterback. So when I'm thinking about the fantasy playoffs, that was my reasoning of man, Rashee Rice would be a lot of fun in that context. Flowers doesn't always smash. He doesn't always get that volume. Maybe this is the year where he levels up. Hit that like button, by the way. We got 30 viewers. Appreciate that. I want to look at Zay Flowers' stats for a minute because I'm not remembering. He's had some games where he gets volume, but brother played 17 games last year and had 74 receptions. It's PPR. That would never happen with Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice might have had 74 receptions in the 3 games he played last year. I mean, it was outrageous. So it's okay. That's what it's about sometimes. You guys are all saying you'd take Flowers. I'm not sure. I think Rice, he's my wide receiver 3. If I can get to the playoffs, I feel pretty good about that because Flowers is not this volume king. All right, I'm looking at running backs, but I shouldn't be because I told you I was going to go 0 RB. But you guys took Addison, you took Adunze, so that's a killer. Judy, Olave, 5 seconds. Let's take Olave. Could have gone back to the well on Igbuka, and he goes right after me, so maybe that was the pick. But with having Rashee Rice on the team, and so this is part of it, right? I think my team would be better. I'll admit it now. Flowers and Igbuka over Rice Olave would have been more comfortable, because when I'm passing on Igbuka, I'm going, what if the early weeks he's not a starter? What if what if something happens there where I'm needing him in my lineup, but I can't have him, and I've already taken the Rice thing, and he's going to accept a settlement, and so he's going to miss the first 6 weeks. That's where the Rice thing does come into play. And so if I don't stick the landing on this draft, come what may with it, but I actually feel pretty good about exploring it the way that I am, because until you do this, you can't know how it would feel. But I can bet you this, when I'm drafting on August 29th I think I've got the 5 in that league, so it's not too different from where I am tonight. Although I would have had Barkley instead of Lamb, and maybe it's a completely different approach than the 0 RB that I'm taking. But on August 29th, when I'm drafting that league, and I'll screen record and then post a video recap of that one too, which I think will be cool, because the NFL doesn't start till September 4th. You've still got like 4 or 5 days that people could be drafting. I did it last year. I got like 30,000 views. This year it'll get 12 views, but whatever. I'm looking at it going, oh, remember when I did that mock draft and I didn't like how my team turned out as much when I felt like I had to take Olave over Igbuka. I felt like I had to do XYZ because I had to account for when Rashee Rice would be missing. Like, that's sort of what I'm glad about when I do a mock like this. Because Lamb, Bowers, Lamar Jackson, Tetaroa, and even the Rice pick, I felt really good about. But then I wasn't as ready when it came to the Olave pick. Because, hey, Addison goes, Odunze goes, what do? You gotta think on your feet. All right, I've got a full complement of receivers right now. I could start looking at running back. I don't know what to make of DeAndre Swift. Tell me in the chat. Are we in on DeAndre Swift or are we not? Because I'm not, but he is sitting there. And receiver-wise, there's just not a lot for me. It's too early for me to go Judkins, and I'd rather take the running back for a team that I think is going to have a really good offense than the running back for a team that I'm not convinced will. And Tyrone Tracy was the other running back I was considering. But I'd rather say, like, all right, let's think about this mechanically. Forget the player. Forget what you think about DeAndre Swift. Look at it from the perspective of, I'm a believer in the Bears offense. Somebody's going to be their starting running back. I can get that player in the middle of the 7th round. Okay, done. Roschon Johnson has been banged up. Kyle, I don't even know how to say his name, the Rutgers kid. Maybe he emerges. But, like, it feels as though Swift, although he's unimpressive as a player, I think he's enough to keep a good 60 to 65% role in that offense. And what if it's more? You know, that's the other part that's interesting. Although, hold on. Let me do a little super sleuthing here, because I've not thought much about it yet at all. Like DeAndre Swift, I haven't thought about him. I haven't drafted him in one singular mock, but I haven't often really committed to a full 0 RB. But what I was wondering, and is now confirmed to me, Ben Johnson was around with the Lions for a while. And, like, there was surely some crossover there, right? Yeah, he had spent some time with DeAndre Swift. And the Lions basically said, get him out of here, and we don't care what it takes. Just get him out of here, because we're going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs, and we're moving on this way. So, yeah, I would say that the more I think about that, the more I think maybe draft the backup running backs in Chicago and not DeAndre Swift. But again, I think it's a volume-based play, not a bet on the player. It's a bet on the offense and a bet on, even if Swift loses some work, he'll get to play some. Would I do it again? No. But I did it here. But this is why we do it, so we can talk through this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Warren would have been an okay pick. I will say this about 0RB. Joe Mixon is still on the board, and I don't like him one bit. But I could see it if I squint. And here's the part where it's like, how much do I want to lean into a risk? Travis Etienne is the player I'm looking at here, and we'll see if he's available for my pick. He could very well just be is very similar to Swift, actually, almost identical in the way I feel about both players. I don't think either are particularly good, but they might have good roles on offenses that I like, or they might be the guys that get replaced at running back on offenses that I like. The other guy that I could take and won't make it back to me, I think, middle of the ninth, is Charbonnet. So let's just take him, because I'd rather bet on the player that I want on my team. That's a classic case of just, look, is it a little bit of a reach? Is it a little bit of a question mark? Yeah. Do you want the guy on your team, though? Yeah, I'd rather have Charbonnet than Mixon or Etienne. So call it good. He's going to get work, and he can be my RB2 for week 1 in this kind of build. We had one Trevor complimenting the other Trevor's draft, the Diggs pick. I think Diggs was a good value where you took him, and he's your flex, or Jaden Reed is your flex. So you got it going on there. I think, again, my draft would be much more comfortable if I had done the Flowers pick, just because I've been chasing to catch up on running back. But I still don't have a week 1 flex if Rashee Rice takes a plea deal. Not a plea deal, but if they settle and he's suspended to begin the year instead of waiting for September 30th. So, that's where I'm spending this round going, I'm 0RB, catch up on running back. Didn't really need to. Probably could have looked down the board at wide receiver a little bit more. Could have taken Jaden Reed. That's the only wide receiver that's since gone off. I'm looking at the other ones. I don't like a lot of them. Godwin, Jawan Jennings. We've talked about Downs, Pittman. Not really big on drafting Ayuk in this spot where I need somebody for my lineup potentially week 1. We know he's not going to be that. Mixon finally goes. Yeah, Trevor's like, yeah, whatever you're saying, I'm happy to scoop up these running backs that have, like Etienne and Mixon in the 8th, 9th turn. That there's a world where that looks really good. And I mean really good. Because you don't really need him. You've drafted a bunch of running backs I hate, but you got good value on him so that you've got the best quarterback in football. Chase, JSN, McLaurin at receiver in PPR. There's a lot to like about that Team 1 draft over there. We know we're going to come up a little bit more empty, but nobody is going to look at a 0RB build and say that's an A grade. Like, that's a great job. I was close to doing it. Would I feel better about Igbuka over Olave? Yes, but I think the lineup might have needed somebody. But, like, don't overthink that. I think if I went back and re-ranked, I might feel like Igbuka does go above Olave. Okay, I'm up to bat here. We do need some wide receiver assistance. I talk about leaning in maybe on the Bears, though. There is a fellow still on the board that I do quite enjoy. Let's take him, because what if he's him? What if he's him? That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Trevor explaining the Brian Robinson pick. A trade for him is almost better than not at this point. And where you're getting him in the 9th round, that's another kind of 0RB pick that if he would have been there in the 9th, let's say for me, and I had gone maybe not Swift in the 7th round, but maybe I had done like Keon Coleman in the 7th, or if Golden would have fallen to me or Diggs would have fallen to me, and I add that receiver to make up for the Rashee Rice thing, and I go Charbonnet in the 8th, then the 9th round, then it's like you hold your nose and you say he's probably going to have a shot somewhere, and that's a great 0RB kind of pick. Yeah, it's weird. Trevor said I'm confused. It's weird. I'm just mostly like not paying attention to it because I'm like, Krosky Merritt is probably someone that should be drafted, but I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm not going to go too, but I just don't know. And how valuable is the running back on Washington anyway if Jaden Daniels is running in touchdowns? I don't know. Yeah, I took LB3, Cody. Had to do it. I haven't been reading as much of the chat. Yeah, Trevor, you mentioned it earlier about never forget Ben Johnson was part of the staff that shipped Swift out of Detroit. You mentioned that in the chat on YouTube. I wasn't looking at it, but I had the same thought as you were probably typing that. I was like, wait a second. I was like Charlie Day at the whiteboard. Like, wait a second. So I probably wouldn't take Swift again. But again, the receivers that went thereafter, I'm just not crazy. Like, it would probably have been Jaden Higgins, actually. Yeah, if Brian Robinson's traded to Houston, that's the best case scenario for Brian Robinson and probably for Houston. But if everybody is actually this obsessed with JCM, why is he still going in the 9th round? Like, shouldn't he be in like the Tyrone Tracy range? But that's because we just don't really know for sure. Good news is I don't have a draft for another week. My first draft is a week from today. It's an auction super flex. Appreciate you guys for joining the stream. Those who have done so, would you please hit a like on the video and subscribe on the channel, because that is the way we can build the channel up. Appreciate you guys. 250 total views. Last night it was like close to 500, which was awesome, but I will still say that this is well worth our time. All right, you're starting to snipe my guys, you jerks. Trey Benson. In theory, though, or in reality, like I do this differently, right? If Trey Benson's a guy that I like, push him up and take him at the burden pick. Don't have Swift. Take a receiver there. Like, this has really helped me figure out if I want to do 0 RB, there is a way to do it. There is absolutely a way to do it. Is Braylon Allen still out there? If he's not, I am boned 6 ways to Sunday. He's right there. Why couldn't I find him? I was like, I'm pretty sure he's there. I must have spelled his name wrong or something. It wasn't loading. I barely got that in time. Yeah, once Benson went, I was like, well, I don't think I've seen Braylon Allen go. So there you go. We got 3 running backs. One of them is not going to play. That makes me want to draft even more backups in Chicago because of the Swift Ben Johnson thing. Trevor says the problem with Bill is he's sharing a backfield with Eckler, Rodriguez, Daniels, McNichols. It's just going to be hard for him to get there at these prices. And again, Jaden Daniels. Well, you said that. You said Jaden Daniels. But that's the biggest one of them all to me, because Jaden Daniels is going to take fantasy points away from everybody else, because he's going to run for 40 yards, and then they're in the red zone. There's nobody to get those PPR points that gets them there. There's nobody to get the receiving yards that gets him there, the rushing yards that gets him there. It's just all goes to Jaden Daniels, which is why I like him just as much as Lamar. This time I took Lamar because, I don't know, ADP. There's no real. I wish I had taken Jaden Daniels, because then I wouldn't have felt so much regret or guilt about the Nose Flowers thing. But man, CeeDee Lamb, Tedero McMillan, Rashee Rice, Olave is really still very good. I just don't know about Olave. I like him. I need to know that the guy throwing him the ball is going to be able to sustain him. And that's what I can't say I know for sure. That's what scares me. And I know that I'm missing 6 to 8 games with Rice. So at that point, I'm a little bit lean at receiver. And yet I'm probably not taking one here. Let me... All right, let me dig in. Is there a receiver? Like, Christian Kirk is actually a good fit for my team. Yeah, he's a good fit for my team. Did that say ADP in like the 140s? Okay. Yeah, ADP is kind of all over the place on Sleeper. Like, we're way past pick 88 right now, aren't we? And Goff is still sitting there? Yeah, we're like into pick 120, 130. Jonnu Smith shouldn't be listed where he's listed. Kyle Pitts hasn't been taken, but I went early tight end, so I don't care about that. Yeah, it's mostly just quarterbacks here. And this is a sharper room that's going to push quarterback if it didn't take one early. The Team 7 just took a backup, but, you know, Caleb Williams in the 11th is reasonable. They're going to burn Trevor. But Trevor's not going to be burned because he can take anybody in the last round and it's still going to be fine. But I would have probably gone Caleb Williams over Jaden Blue. But we'll see. I'll wait to see who he picks at quarterback because I'm sure he's got somebody he's eyeing. And he's got a really good team. Jefferson, McConkey, J-Mo, Diggs, Reed, Mooney. I don't know about Mooney on the bench because it's just one of those where, like, what are the circumstances in which I'm going to put him into my lineup? And is Mooney the name that's ever going to build enough value to have legit trade value? Maybe he will, because I do think the Falcons are going to throw the crap out of the ball. Maybe you're taking Penix. I don't know. But you had 5 legit receivers. Chuba Hubbard, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Jaden Blue. Yeah, your running backs are kind of gross, but that's all right. I mean, I'm the one to talk, right? Not as gross as my running backs, but I at least feel like I got what I needed out of. I mean, you took McBride, so we're basically about even at tight end. I got Lamar. You'll get somebody late. I know I took Tetaroa from you, but that's because I pronounce his full name. You only say Tet, which his mama does not like. So, just saying. 3 more picks, and then I am back on the clock here in the 11th. We're going to wrap this thing up with the final 2 rounds. I've got 3 running backs. I've got my 6 receivers. It's all over but the crying. I need to take another running back at least. Probably 2. Unless there's a late receiver that I like to identify. Because a lot of the late receivers, after you get out of this, like, where's the line drawn? It's a lot of bench. I just don't want these guys on my bench. From Shaheed, I mean, Shaheed's fine. Mooney, Keenan Allen, Mims, I kind of like actually a little bit on Mims. Bateman, Christian Kirk, even. I know I took him, but I think I just had to. Because if there's a realm in which I'm starting Christian Kirk week 1. Like if Rice is suspended early, we don't think Burden's on the depth chart yet. Olave, we don't trust the quarterback. You could start Christian Kirk over those guys. But all these guys, Tillman, Palmer, they're not bench receivers to me. I'd rather draft bench running backs at that point. Do we draft Garendo again? No, let's not fade CMC with every pick we make. I thought about Shipley too. Let's take Algier because I think Algier actually has a little bit of standalone value. He's going to play some, and I do think if something should happen to Bijan, which hopefully doesn't, I think Algier is a good type of running back to have for this team. Because, like, let's say Swift is just cut. Let's say, like, worst comes to worst there. Let's say Ken Walker gets healthy and is playing really well. Suddenly I'm like, shoot, I don't have any running backs. I would be starting Braylon Allen and Tyler Algier. So, and like, I guess I just view it differently because Eckler's a perfectly good pick. Your point is that, like, it's PPR. He's going to be the pass catching back. Yes, they're sharing with a lot of guys, but Brian Robinson's going to be on a different team. So you have him. You have Texans starter Brian Robinson. You have Cowboys starter Jaden Blue. You have Eckler, who's going to be playing a good amount for the Commanders. And then you go, you can trade from that. I just wonder how difficult it is to convince your league mates that, like, hey, you want to trade for Houston starter Brian Robinson, who doesn't catch passes, and Austin Eckler, who's not the starter, but he does catch passes. He's a really good second flex. I would rather draft the guys that can turn into more. And, like, even with a injury, Eckler's good if I hadn't drafted all these other running backs and I needed a starter for week 1. On my bench, I'd rather draft Ollie Gordon, Woody Marks, the guys that are coming off the board now. But like I said, can't say you're wrong there. Isaiah Bond is interesting. I don't know if he's going to have value this year, but maybe he does. Like Tesla, Torrey Horton, if he was healthy. Let's just take the Lions kid. I don't know what to make of him, but we'll see. I could have taken Garendo. He goes right off the board after me. The 0 RB thing, man. You're never going to look at it and say, oh, I get an A in this draft. You're never going to look at it and say that, but you're not supposed to. As long as you're getting an A on quarterback, which I do, tight end, which I do, wide receiver, almost. I was very close to getting what I wanted with receiver. Lamb, McMillan, perfect. Rice, largely perfect, but it means that you need those other receivers to be even better. Olave is the linchpin to the team. If he pans out, we're sitting pretty. If he doesn't, we may have some regret. Swift, yeah, I probably do that differently next time. I push it a little bit further. I go Charbonnet, Braylon Allen, Algier, Garendo instead, right? And the wide receiver I get up here instead of Swift is Keon Coleman. Makes me feel a little bit better about the Olave thing. But I'll say, man, I really loved the start here. The first 4 rounds, I don't think I could have done it much better if I'm going to go 0 RB. So I'll go B+. I know everybody's going to say B. I'll give somebody a bad grade. Let's be harsh. Let's do it. It won't be this guy, though. Chase, JSN, McLaurin. I like those guys. I like Allen. I like Kelsey. Didn't like your running backs, though. I forgot about that, Trev. I just don't. I'm not going to grade you well, but that's because I hate every running back you took, other than Pollard, at where you took him. Mixon, but again, Mixon Etienne, I even said, fair value. I'm never going to take him. Stevenson, I don't get it. He's on the way down. Henderson on the way up. I like Marvin Mims late. B-, but love your first 3 rounds. Fumbled the bag from there. Maybe I should start being harsh to people. Is that what I need on YouTube? People to be like, I don't know, this guy, he's a real jerk, but he grades your draft, and it's kind of funny. Hit that like button if you're right here. Delivery driver says he got an A from the 8 spot. Are you the 8 right now? Oh, okay. I'll grade you in a minute. Bijan, Kyron, love it. James Cook, too many running backs early. Didn't need 3. Certainly didn't need Caleb Johnson when you took him, but that's actually fair. But the problem is when you take those running backs, which are so strong, Garrett Wilson has to catch a ball from Fields, and he's your wide receiver 1. DJ Moore, the backup to Rome Odunze in targets. Jerry Jeudy catching passes from Flacco. Let's do it that way. I want to grade everybody's team and roast it. I think that would have been funnier. Let me know in the chat if that's how I should do it for tomorrow's live stream. Well, actually, if I do it tomorrow, it's starting at midnight because I bowl on Thursdays. Also, I have a draft during bowling tomorrow. I forgot about that. Gonna have to do that for my phone, and it's an auction. Good grief, I'm a mess. And that's a real draft. I just C+. Sorry, Micah. I just think the receivers are not going to hold up for PPR. See, I can be harsh. No B for Micah. I'm looking for reasons now to not give people a B since everybody made fun of me for how many Bs I gave out last time. Gibbs Jacobs, if you're going to start that way, you better do what you did at receiver, and you did it. Harrison, Worthy, Sutton, Pearsall, don't really get the Myers pick at that point. I would look for a rookie with more upside, but not looking at it, I don't really know who is available. Golden, yeah, that would have probably been my pick. Some people love drafting Dobbins and Chubb, and I just do not. But you did a very typical draft of what I would do if I were going double hero RB. It's like draft 2, don't draft another one until the double-digit round at running back. Get those 5 receivers so you're ready to go with a PPR league, and then you can tidy up quarterback and tight end. I think you got decent value at all those spots. You do actually get a B. Maybe close to a B+. Trevor went Jettas, McConkey, J-Mo, Diggs, and Reed. Very good 5-man quarterback or receiver group. Don't love the running backs, but I understand that you're going to end up with 2 that you can play and play successfully. Chuba Jones is fine. I just question that, okay, Brian Robinson gets traded to the Texans. So what? You going to play him over Aaron Jones? You going to play Jaden Blue, even if he's getting good work with the Cowboys? Maybe. That one I can get behind. Not the Eckler part. Because I just don't think he fits your team. You already have guys that are safe like a Chuba and Aaron Jones, and you've got the Texans starting running back as well. I don't get the Eckler part. But because if you were starving for, I just need an RB2, I'm really going to need one at some point. I don't think you will. I think you had plenty of safety before that. But the receivers are legit. McBride was a good pick. We both love Drake May. B+. It could have been an A if you would have done better with the bench running backs. But again, you knew that drafting Robinson would be gross. It was about getting him at the value that you got him. Wait a second. Is this real? How did I not notice that Jonathan Taylor fell to the middle of the third? Holy crap. Okay, so Saquon Barkley and Chase Brown are the two running backs, and he's got Taylor in his flex. Adam Smith, Igbuka are the receivers, and you can start Golden over Igbuka if you had to. You could start Pittman over both of them if you had to as a rookie, like week 1 I'm talking. You were getting crazy value everywhere. Low Cole, I draft from the 5 in a real draft. I hope and pray that those names like Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd are falling to me. Holy smokes. And for how, like, I ripped on Micah for going 3 RB because you just don't need to do it in PPR. But for how aggressively you pursued running backs, to go Adam Smith, Igbuka, that might play. I'm a wide receiver honk, but that's going to play. Bigsby, Shipley are the right type of running backs on your bench. You got Loveland and Bo Nix. That's probably just that's an A- only because I want you to be strong. That's probably just an A. Like, you took advantage. You weren't afraid to take your 3rd running back, even though it was stylistically going to be a little bit weird for PPR. Low Colt, if you're listening, well done. That shocked me. I did not notice that Jonathan Taylor I was in my own little world thinking about Lamar Jackson and what I was going to do. I didn't even notice that almost was something I could have done. I would have taken Taylor there too if I would have seen him at top ADP. Man, that's crazy value. And then, like, now you start to contextualize Adams differently too. You're like, yeah, he's old, but he also might be a guy that should be going at the 2-3 turn instead of middle of the 4th round. Smith is a very good pick in the 5th. Igbuka was the right pick in the 6th. I partially allowed this to happen. I'll take Tetaroa over Adams, and I didn't get a chance coming the other way. He took Smith from me over Rice. That's fine. Olave over Igbuka. I should have gone Igbuka. I'll acknowledge that. Taylor, that's all y'all. I didn't have anything to do with the Taylor thing. I couldn't stop him. Chase Brown, I could have stopped him. That was a really good draft. I love my first 5 picks. 0 RB, I think I did okay with it, but it's probably just about a B. I would still make the playoffs, don't get me wrong. And if I do make the playoffs, it becomes an A draft because I'm dangerous with this top 5. But, yeah, I could have done a little better. Nico Evans Hunter, like the first 3, can't probably wait that long to have a wide receiver for. Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton, and Judkins isn't a flex either, so you're really looking for a flex. Benson, that's more of I like some of the players. That's a C+, B-, though. Yeah, I don't know. You got Burrow, good, having a backup in Caleb Williams. I just think there's too much there that I'm not sure I'm excited to use. Evans, Judkins, Jennings. If I'm wrong about those guys, I'm wrong about your draft, but I'm not totally crazy. Here we go. The delivery driver said he got an A. Let's see if he's right. Neighbors, Higgins, Pickens, Addison. Yes, so far so good. You pushed and got Mahomes in the 8th round. That's good. I don't care about Njoku. I think that's a wasted pick because you took Ferguson later. Like, who could you have had if you hadn't taken Njoku? It kind of got to be lean at that point, didn't it? Downs is probably the answer, and that would be your 6-packet receiver. Toot and Sampson are the right running backs to pick for your team. Tracy is the right running back 3 to pick for your team. I'm impressed. You talked a lot of smack about you're going to be an A grade. Oh, I'm going to give you an A-, and it's only because of the Njoku pick. I think if you had gone Downs over Njoku, but you didn't know you were going to get Ferguson that late. Hell, Kyle Pitts was available there too. That would have been really another way to endear yourself to the teacher here. Like, you could have even said Godwin in the 9th. He's going on IR for me, and I'm going to pick up a guy off waivers. That's a really good draft from the 8. It really is. I love Neighbors. H.N. Henderson is really solid. Tracy, in case the Patriots are being stupid, you can say, well, Tracy's going to get volume early. Maybe Henderson is not getting it early, but I think he probably will. Yep, you're right. You got an A- grade on your hands. That's a very good draft. Might be the best one so far. Just a couple of tweaks I would make personally, but very good. Puka Nacua, Drake London, Zay Flowers, Higgins, Downs, Hollywood, and Efton Chisholm. Ken Walker, Harvey, Javonte Spears. You got your Hurts. It's one of those B to B plus drafts. It's a good draft. I like the first 3 receivers. You drafted 7 of them, and I'm not sure I love any of them for your flex, but that's a pretty good look. All right, let's see how this team that went CMC Henry ended up. Okay, you grabbed Daniels because he was there. Made sure to lock in an elite quarterback. The Hill, Ridley, Adunze, Samuel contingent is, there's some holes to be poked in that. Or it's great. It's very volatile. And then I like Warren. Don't like Scatabo, but I could be wrong. Just don't like him. Don't think Tillman or Leggett are serving me in the late rounds. I liked a couple tight ends you grabbed. Yeah. There's risk here. I mean, you're talking Henry. Shoot, let's start at the top. CMC, Henry, Tyreek, and Debo. And I don't know how old Ridley is, because he's not a spring chicken anymore. That's a little bit of risk there, but it's still a very good group of players, B+. Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Shakir, Godwin. Okay, so you're not starting a receiver in flex until Godwin gets back. Kittle. The running backs are Connor, Pacheco, Montgomery, and so you can start all 3 of those guys. One of them can be your flex. Get by with that. Mason. Just a little too RB heavy for me for PPR. I'll go B-. Don't love the bench as much as, I'm not a big bench fan. Yeah, B- for me. And the last one here of the night, Genty, Breece Hall, Krosky Merritt, Ray Davis. Of course, you drafted the Kentucky running back. See, I remember these things. Brian Thomas, Metcalf, Waddle, Coleman, Kupp, Ayuk, Kyle Williams. There's a lot of receivers there. Some of them old, some of them young, some of them Steelers. Goff paired with Laporta. You backstacked it that way. That's pretty good. Kind of feels like in a world where Breece keeps getting pushed to the 4th and sometimes 5th, I'm almost penalizing you because I know that Breece Hall can be had later. But there's only one Breece Hall in this draft. It's not a best ball tournament, so I can't punish you for that. You went with the homer pick of Metcalf. Whereas, who else would you have taken if not for being a Steelers fan? Like, you could have gone Zay Flowers or Hunter. Or no, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you could have gone Tyreek Hill over Metcalf. McMillan over Metcalf. Yeah, that's kind of going to dock you a little bit, but still like a high B. Probably B+. Yeah, because Genty, Breece Hall is going to be pretty dangerous. Brian Thomas, Waddle. Good little lion stack with Laporta. You've got some options for flex. It's like that 87%. I don't know if that's a B or a B+, but that's what you scored. This was a blast, everybody. That's going to be the last mock of the night. We got 40 viewers as we leave here. Hit like on your way out. Hit that subscribe button on your way out. I will read the YouTube comments. I will read them right now, and then we'll be done. Jeremy says James Cook is going to be a bust. Yeah, he was taken earlier than, and that's why I gave Micah C+. If I've already got 2 great running backs, I'm not picking James Cook in the 3rd. Trevor said I will self-grade C- at best. No, Trevor had a good draft. Shoot. I'm sorry. I didn't realize my face was still covering some of the board for everybody. Let me open it up so you can see Trevor's team. No, I thought Trevor had a good draft. Who are we talking about? Touchdown regression. Oh, we're talking about James Cook. Lil Colt, yeah, you've been crushing it. Jeremy says, in my opinion, I foresee him not scoring as many touchdowns, so I don't see the points. But maybe he'll do the same thing. Yeah, you're right. I had James Cook last year, and every week it felt like he shouldn't be scoring fantasy points, and he kept scoring fantasy points until I was like, I have to trade him. Because if you actually watch Bills games, you're like, oh, man, I'm really fortunate that he happened to be in on the touchdown play because they rotate running backs so dang much. At least they did last year. I agree, though. He's going to have some regression on TD. He's not a target of mine. I like James Cook, but he's not a target of mine in drafts at all. 12-team Dynasty Superflex tight end premium. Trade away Lamb for Rice, and then 3 first-round picks in 26, 7, and 8. No name. I would need to know more information. Whose picks are you getting? Is that team a playoff team usually? Is that a bottom-feeding team usually? It's hard to trade CeeDee Lamb, but that's a big haul. I normally don't value like picks in 27 and 28 very highly, but 27 is that Ryan Williams draft. And so if you were to say, is there a chance I could get Ryan Williams or remind me, what's the other kid's name? Jeremiah Smith. Jeremy says, if you can't compete to win right now, I would do it unless you're trading one of the top 5 teams in your league. Yeah, if you're trading, which he probably is, that's why the guy is willing to give up his picks, because he probably doesn't think they're worth very much. But you've got Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. I do oftentimes trade my 2027 picks, but that's because I know that I'm never going to be at the top of the round anyway. If I'm going to get one of those Smith or Ryan Williams picks, I'm just going to have to trade legit pieces for it. Yeah, Trevor, the running backs are gross. I'm glad you agree. I thought you were going to defend yourself on the on the running backs thing. All right, so in fairness, Trevor gets more of a B. That's fine. I love me some LB3. I draft him most of the time. Yeah, I do in these mocks because of what Trevor said. It feels like a gross range. And like, I'm never going to feel sad clicking Luther. If he doesn't work out, whatever. He's a Mizzou guy, and I at least had fun on the way. Imagine if it does work out and he's on my fantasy team. I'd have him in one dynasty, so that's good. Are we talking about Judkins? Too many question marks. Still not signed. Facing a suspension. He could still be suspended by the NFL. It's happened before with drop cases. Yeah, he has to sign before they can even get their hands on him. Judkins is going way, 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 way too high. Because this is a stream that I do for advice more so than like for my own benefit, I would not be taking Quinshon Judkins where I've seen him go tonight, personally. I much prefer Dylan Sampson at ADP. Matt says 12 teams PPR. Murray, Fields, Gibbs, Bucky, Pacheco, Mason, Charbs, Tootin, Higgins, Marvin, Waddle, Debo, Tillman, Kincaid. Is it Superflex? You said 12-team PPR, so I'm going to assume it's not. Gibbs Bucky is a great start. And is this Dynasty or is this probably for just this year? Probably just this year. Marvin, Waddle, Higgins. No, it's a good team. That's a good team for sure. You got 2 good running backs, 3 good receivers, a little bit iffy on the flex spot, but I like the names that have a chance to emerge. I'll go like it's at 87% again, Matt. That's the same thing. That is the same thing as we always get to. Okay, to correct it at the end, we've got 22 likes on stream, and the final follower count for the night, or subscriber count, is, drum roll please, 1451. So I'll update that just for posterity. I wish it was 140,000 or whatever I had typed there. And 22 likes. Just like to have that for the end so we know what we did, what we accomplished, and the friends we made along the way. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the stream tonight. Appreciate it. Tomorrow, bug me about it in the Discord. I'll drop the Discord once more. That's where all the fantasy stuff is posted first. So if you want to have the first opportunity to get into the next live stream, it's not going to be found on YouTube. It'll be found first on Discord. I may try it another way at some point if I think it will help viewership, but traditionally, until the last couple of days, we haven't always immediately snapped and filled it with 12, and now it's getting real easy to fill because people are starting to catch on to the rhythm of what we're doing. So just be in that Discord, in the fantasy or the mock draft area of that Discord. I just posted the link in the chat. 23 likes. Now it's 25. You guys were holding out on me the whole time. You could have done it earlier is all I'm saying. 2-hour stream, though, that is kind of crazy to think about. That was attractive. No wonder I'm coughing so much. I've been talking for 2 hours. But hey, appreciate you guys for joining me. Hopefully this gets us toward our 4,000 hours of watch content, because we did a bunch of stuff last August, September, and then not a lot. So we're gonna try to keep this going all year this time. Thank you guys, appreciate it always, and we'll talk to you next time. Again tomorrow, it'll be late at night if it happens, because I do have my bowling league. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time on the stream. Peace.